Welcome to my second in the series, Turning Oi to Joy. So we're talking about positive psychology developed by Dr. Martin Seligman years ago at the University of Pennsylvania. And one of the things that he and his team of researchers developed is a concept called flow, F-L-O-W. And what that means is the elements of flow are optical experience, self-consciousness disappears, and the sense of time becomes distorted, and an activity that produces such gratification that people are willing to do it for its own sake. So take, for example, you are enjoying a golf game and time just disappears. So this is something that you truly enjoy doing, or it could be a tennis game. Ideally, it would be something like a relationship or some time with a partner or your children or a pet, but time just disintegrates. You don't know what time it is. You don't know what day it is. You're just having such a great time and you're so into it that time just disappears. So sometimes this can happen with artists and musicians. They so enjoy what they're doing that it doesn't matter. Time doesn't matter. They could be playing for hours, but they still enjoy what they're doing. Another concept of positive psychology is something called savor. And in his book, Savoring by Fred Bryant, he suggests ways to learn to savor or to mindfully engage in thoughts or behaviors that heighten the effect of positive events on positive feelings. Bryant's work also supports 3 temporal forms of savoring. Anticipatory, so this could be something like anticipating a wonderful trip to Europe or to the Bahamas or something that means a great deal to you. It must be in the moment, and it must be reminiscent, meaning we can savor a positive event before it happens by getting excited in preparation, like getting excited for a vacation. We can savor the positive event as it occurs. Sometimes this can be an element of spending time with your children or spending time with friends, or food. Food is a wonderful way of savoring a moment. You can have a wonderful meal and savor that moment. And what it does is that it's imprinted in your mind. This wonderful event is imprinted in your mind. And when you have moments of sadness, you can remember that time you spent with your mom maybe, or your dad, or your grandparents, or children. And what the mind remembers, the body follows. So an example, if I ask you to close your eyes and imagine what a lemon would taste like, well, you would be able, your mind even would, your senses would be involved in that lemon. You would smell the citrus and your mouth would start watering. Because what the mind does, the body follows. So you can savor in 6 steps, easy steps, or 5 easy steps. The rules of savoring are very straightforward and easy to remember. So the first is slowing down. The second is pay attention. The third is using all of your senses. So touch, taste, sight, smell, hearing. I remember years ago, I did this experiment, did this exercise with a group of nursing home residents. And a woman in the back remembered her grandmother smoking a cigar in the back of her Cuban veranda. So it's sight, smells, hearing, remembering music. Music can always bring us back to a happier time, or even in some cases, a sad time. But these are times this is a touch of a fabric can remind us of a time when a grandmother may have given us lace. A taste is a reminder of mom's chicken soup. A sight, let's say, for example, a small flower, a rose, can remind us of the people that we love. And a smell of cigars might remind you of your grandparents or your grandfather or grandmother, for that case. I always thought that was amusing. And hearing music, hearing the sound of laughter can remind you of a positive time in your life. Stretching out this experience for as long as you can. So you're savoring that exactly what that word means. It's savoring. It's getting it into your taste buds, into your very system, in order for you to enjoy what's going on in your life and reflect on your enjoyment. That's how you imprint this in your mind, is by enjoying the event, the experience that you're having. Mindfulness is really very key, and it's been one that has been spoken about many times, often bandied around in many, many ways. And mindfulness comes from Buddhist practice, and it's been taken out of the context, unfortunately, been taken out of the context of Buddhist meditation and Buddhist practice, but used in a more generalized way. Mindfulness can be used in whether you're Buddhist, whether you're Christian, Jewish, Muslim, or an atheist. Mindfulness is an important practice. So what does it mean? It's taking the role of an impartial observer. An event or situation is neither positive or negative. So take, for example, that you are upset about something, and you explain it to someone as if you were reporting this to as if you were a reporter, or, like Walter Cronkite, those of you who remember the CBS anchor. It's what is happening, who, what, where, and when. That's it. We don't put emotions on those facts. It's who, what, where, and when. It's cultivating the understanding that things must improve over a period of time. It's understanding that that nothing is permanent. Everything changes from a second to second moment. And so what might be upsetting now may not necessarily be that way the next second. It changes. Having the willingness to observe the world as if it were your first time doing it. So it's like what they call child mind. So we look at things and we say, how can we experience this event? Even though we've experienced this event millions of times, but how can we see it as a new event? Having trust in yourself and your intuition and your abilities. So you trust yourself. Nobody else is going to do it, but you can trust yourself, and you know that you have the ability to do whatever you have your intention set on. Accepting things as they are supposed to do or to be. So Tara Brach is a Buddhist practitioner, and you may have heard some of her podcasts. If you haven't, I would suggest strongly that you do. She's a wonderful practitioner and gives out really good advice. And one of the concepts that she devised is something called radical acceptance. Radical acceptance is radical, meaning very over the top. So there is no out. You are radical about something. Acceptance means that you accept your situation. I often talk to my clients about the idea that, yes, we may want our partner to be something else, maybe some something, but they're not necessarily that way. And so we have to accept them. We may not agree with the situation, but we accept them for who they are. The state of not doing anything but observing. So you are observing. When you are thinking in terms of factual, you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to see this from a distance. You step back and you see the wider lens. Too often we see things from a pinpoint point here, and we don't see things that there are other things going on. If we widen the lens a bit, we see that there are other things going on. So your partner may be upset about something. Is that upsetness about you? Not necessarily. Sometimes that upsetness is because they're in pain, or they've just got a phone call that they may not necessarily agree with. This is not agreement. I often think of someone who is in a domestic violence situation. Accepting means that they accept that their partner has anger management issues and is violent. In that case, you work towards that goal of leaving that situation. You don't stay in that situation. You leave because you've accepted that this is who your partner is, and nothing is going to change for them. The state of avoid attaching meaning to thoughts or feelings. So that's what we do. In a later series, I'll be talking about dialectical behavioral therapy, another form of cognitive therapy. And what that system does is it says that we have two concentrical circles that are intertwined with each other. And so the first is rational mind. And that rational mind means that we think in terms of, I like to think in Star Trek terms of Data, the robot. And it's just facts. It's who, what, where, when, and how. The other concentrical circle is emotions. What are the emotions? Because underlying the facts are emotions. And somewhere in between is the wise mind. This is the ability to look at things from a wise perspective and to combine the rational, the factual with the emotion. So you come from a place of, when an event happens, you come from a place of responding versus reaction. So one of the things that gives us some positive psychology, positiveness, is hope. Nancy Bachrach defines hope as a kind of defiance. It's a decision that has to be made again and again. Hope is hard work. And although there is no guarantee it would lead to the desired end, maybe hope is an end of itself. So there's no such thing as false hope. Yes, it may not necessarily work out the way you want it to be, but it's hope. Hope is hope. Optimism is one of the ingredients necessary to turn traumatic events around. So I often think that even if you experienced a traumatic event, there's a term called post-traumatic stress disorder. And that's when somebody is profoundly affected by some kind of trauma. We think of rape victims, or we think of Holocaust survivors, or we think of war survivors. And they flinch when there's a sound or thunder, or when somebody looks like who their tormentor was, their abuser was. But we take this process and we learn something called post-traumatic growth. What that means is we take the process and we learn how to be strong, to have strength in whatever perspective we have. So the placebo effect works on 60 to 90% of all diseases, according to Harvard University. And the placebo is that if you gave someone a placebo and they didn't know it, let's say you tell them that that placebo would work for whatever disorder they have, the interesting thing is that 60 to 90% of all diseases would go away, as far as the Harvard University researches. So the whole process is needing to learn new perspectives and new behaviors. And we'll continue this process in later videos. I hope to see you next week. If you have any comments or you would like to contact me, my email is crlerner, crlerner09@gmail.com. I'll be glad to answer any questions. And if you would like some help in dealing with whatever issues you're dealing with, I'll be more than happy to help you. We can come to some agreement. See you next week.